Hey guys, now that I finished my reviews and rankings for all of the films I saw in 2024, that playlist is on my channel if you want to check it out. But now that we're done with 2024, we are going to start this new year, well, kind of with how last year ended, with season 2 of the show I absolutely adore, Squid Game, season 2. When Squid Game came out, all I did on the cruise of my then fiance, now husband, all I did on the cruise of when he proposed to me was just talk about Squid Game non-fucking stop. And to the point of he got so freaking annoyed of me. But I absolutely love Squid Game. It's a Korean-based show that's on Netflix, which makes me wonder, will they put it on DVD? Is there a way to actually have a hard physical copy of Squid Game since it's on Netflix? Because I think that was the issue with Netflix, like films like Hush that were on Netflix, you'll never be able to actually physically own them. So I hope that's not the case with Squid Game, because I adore this entire series. Before we start talking about season 2, we're gonna have to kind of backtrack and talk about season 1. And I am going to do a lot of comparisons to the first season, as well as this is very heavy spoilers for season 1 and season 2. Let's backtrack a little bit to season 1 and the things I liked about season 1. So basically, Squid Game follows a young man called Song Ji-han, and he is a man who is very desperate and in a lot of debt. And his desperation for money, he starts off the story like betting on horses and just gambling. He has a gambling addiction that's very obvious. And he's trying to get money for his daughter's birthday. And he ends up stealing from his mom, stealing some money from her, and betting on horses, losing that money, giving it away as if he has all this money, getting by loan sharks to get the money, and they threaten him, and he's just down on his luck. And the whole basis of Squid Game is that's basically everybody down on their luck, desperate for money, and these games are created to give people the opportunity to get money. However, huge plot twist is that you have to play these games or you get eliminated, and they don't tell you straight up that eliminated means you die. He gets invited to go attend these games called Squid Games, and they put people through all these games and trials. And again, if you don't make it through, you get eliminated. The most famous and iconic game is Red Light, Green Light. It's the game that set the whole thing in motion. And you learn very quickly what eliminated means, and just chaos ensues. And basically, it's like fight to the death. And with every player that loses, that accumulates money into the big piggy bank that all the players are fighting for. And you'd have to be pretty confident with yourself that you're going to end up out of these games alive with all that money. But in season 1, he basically ends up winning. Ji-han ends up winning the whole thing. And it was revealed that he's player 456, which is the last player. And player number 1 was Oh Il Nam, who was like this little old man, so cute, so innocent, so sweet. And they pulled a Saw moment with Jigsaw, where Kramer's been in the games the entire time, and he stands up at the end, and you remember that, oh my God, say what? Same thing. Oh Il Nam was basically running the whole show, and that's why he never he had basically protection. The guards knew not to kill him. So that was, I remember that. It was very shocking. And it was very like, what? Like that came out of nowhere. And it left you with now nostalgia, but at the time just very like, we are experiencing something really awesome. And it ends with him winning the whole thing. He gets the money, but he doesn't really spend the money. And he ends up confronting Il Nam, and Il Nam passes away. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go make my life right, live my life. And he goes to board a plane, dyes his hair red, goes to board a plane to go meet his daughter because she moved to America because he couldn't afford to, you know, pay child support. So he's going to go visit his daughter in America. When he hears something familiar, sounds like this weird, it sounds like a gunshot, honestly, but he looks across the way of the subway, and there's a guy that looks familiar to him who is playing a game, a Japanese game with the blue card and the red card. And it's the recruiter who recruited him to Squid Game and who recruits everybody to Squid Game. And he decides then and there, you know, I'm going to not go visit my daughter, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to put an end to the games. And that's how season 1 ends. So it's definitely a cliffhanger. You're like, what's going to happen? And the red hair doesn't last long. So we start off back in that airport, and he's not boarding his plane. He's leaving. He gets a phone call, and there's a man called the front man. That's a whole subplot will go down. But he's the guy who runs the games, especially now that Il Nam's not there. But he literally is the front man of the games. And he calls him and he says, you need to get on that plane. You need to forget this. And he's like, no, I'm coming to shut you guys down. And he's like, okay, you're wasting your time. So Jihan is very just somber throughout this whole season. In the first one, he laughed a lot. His very first picture in Squid Game season 1, he's all like that, very happy, very excited. This one, he ain't excited at all. Like, his picture in the first one was very, and then in the second one, the picture for the game, he's just like, which I would be too, because he's seen so much death. So he basically buys or just rents out this entire, I think he buys it, this whole broken down motel, and he makes it like an escape house. And he basically has all his money on the bed, all the prize money. So he has this all on his bed. He's barely touched any of it. But something that was really cool, he ends up hiring the loan shark, the loan sharks, but the main guy, the boss, the henchman, he basically hires him to say, hey, go find that recruiter and help me to do this. This is what I went through. This is what happened. And the guy doesn't believe a word he's saying, but he's like, but something's up because he just paid off this huge debt. And it is weird that a lot of people that have debts owed to me, they just disappear and none of them pay their debts off. So something's up. I'm going to listen to this guy. So he tells his henchmen to help him to find a recruiter. And the recruiter's a recurring character as well. And I gotta say, I'm not really a fan of where they took him in this season. I think they turned him into a madman, a psychopath. He was odd, and you could tell he was working for Squid Game. You know, he was part of it, because obviously he's the recruiter. But in this one, he just goes off the fucking rails, and he's playing all these different games, which anytime I'm a dog groomer, so anytime I'm like, hey, you want to switch dogs or something, or who wants to groom this dog? And it's like, oh, well, let's play rock, paper, scissors. This puts a whole new twist to rock, paper, scissors. It's rock, paper, scissors -1. And of course, whoever loses gets eliminated. And unfortunately, it was the boss of the loan sharks, and he had really kind of grown on me and really had a character arc to him, because he actually Jihan about something was up, but he made the mistake of trying to go after the recruiter himself with another of his henchmen. And when they're playing rock, paper, scissors, it is really sweet. The boss of the loan sharks, he didn't -1 to make a decision, because he knew, basically, I think he had two papers, something. He had a rock, the other guy had a paper, scissors, something like that. Basically, you do 2 rock, paper, scissors on both hands, and then you -1, and whatever you're left with, that's who wins. And I think he knew if he had -1, he would have won. And he didn't want to do that to his henchmen. So he didn't make a choice. So the crazy recruiter's like, okay, well, you're disqualified. And disqualified means eliminated. So he doesn't make it. And then Jihan basically tells the henchman guy, like, you're just their puppet. You're not anyone special. You're not anyone great. You're literally just a puppet. And they play Russian roulette, which he reversed the odds from instead of re-rounding it each time, they just played it 6 rounds. So it's obvious it could go off at the 6th round. It could have gone off before. And I kept thinking about that, like, if they were like mid-sentence and then they just like, that was it. But he ends up eliminating himself. I don't know, he's just really psychotic. But I guess that's the end of the recruiter's storyline. The backstory of the front man and Hong Jun-ho, that is his brother, and he is a police officer. And in the first season, he infiltrated Squid Game as one of the guards. And he was very obvious in the way that he wasn't part of the guards, because he didn't know about the organ donating they were doing. And he had recorded a lot of the VIPs. He got a lot of evidence. He was messaging people. But the unfortunate thing, they're on an island away from probably Wi-Fi and all that stuff. So none of his stuff's sent. And he confronts the front man. And the front man is his brother, who played and won Squid Game back in 2015, I believe. But now he runs Squid Game. So he's like, what the hell? Like, what happened to you? And the front man, they confront each other. And he has In-ho at gunpoint, and he's like, join me. And In-ho obviously is a cop. He's trying to, like, he didn't want this for his brother, the front man, to be part of this. So he doesn't join him. And the front man shoots him in the shoulder. It was kind of obvious he was going to live. But his phone fell into the ocean. So in season 2, he gets picked up by a boatman. And the guy who drives the boats is taking him for 2 years around the islands, trying to find the island that the games are taking place so he can shut it down. There's a reason he never finds it. Spoiler, the boatman is part of the games and part of the guards and everything. Like, he's part of the operation. So he purposely is going like, I don't know which island they're on. So In-ho, the cop who infiltrated the games, and Jihan survived, basically, the first season. And they end up, because In-ho is a cop, he runs his plate, he finds him, and they kind of team up to go shut down the games. Jihan puts a tracker into his mouth, into his tooth, and him, In-ho, and the loan shark guy who survived the rock, paper, scissors game, they all go with the boatman to go shut down the games. But Jihan ends up going into a white limo where the front man is in there, and he gets confronted, and he's like, put me back in the games. And he's like, you're just trying to shut the games down. Why do you want to be back in the game? He's like, because I want I do want to shut you down, but wouldn't that be great ratings for the VIPs? The VIPs, they basically do these games for views, for, like, they're all Americans and they're all assholes. And the rich people that pay to watch this, kind of like black market stuff. And he's like, wouldn't that be great viewing for your VIPs, you know, returning champion coming back, da, 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 da. So he's like, okay, if you're sure. So they put him back in the game, and he's back as 456. And I kind of forgot he was like there to like stop the games for a second, because I was ready for the beat by beat. They play red light, green light, and he warns them all. He's like, guys, stop. When it's red light, like literally freeze. Because if you move, if you breathe, if you blink, if you twitch, they're going to kill you. And they're all like, oh, this guy's crazy. He just wants the money for himself. Oh, he's just a... But then it starts happening. And I will say, I'm not the biggest fan of this group. I think in the first one, I really got to feel for these characters. There wasn't, I don't think, that big of a group to remember. Again, there's Jihan, who is 456. Il Nam, who's player 1. You have, like I told you, his friend Song Woo, who he ended up doing the Battle Royale at the end with, who is player 218. And so they had a pass together, and they go back showing their past a couple times. Abdul Ali, who is player 199, who had the most sad death in the world. And they showed a little bit of his past. Kong Se-byung, player 67. There's a character that joined Squid Game who, Kong Se-byung was a young lady who came from North Korea. She had a younger brother, and they couldn't find their parents. There's a very similar story here in season 2 of a young lady named Kong No-yul. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. She is, let's just say number 11. Notice how I'm not saying player 11. She's number 11 because she gets revealed to be not going into the games as a player, but as a guard. So she also comes from North Korea. She is on search for her daughter, who I think is either still in North Korea or something happened to her daughter. And it's interesting because as a guard, she literally has to forget her past. And in her real life, she played a role at a fair type thing where she played as a mascot of a bunny, and she meets this young girl who she learns has cancer, and she feels very attached to this young girl, very motherly, matronly towards her. And she sees the dad as the little girl collapses on the ground and gets taken to the ambulance, on an ambulance to the hospital. She sees the dad, and the interesting thing there is the dad ends up in the games. Kind of in Asian cultures as well as like just different cultures. Like my name is Amanda Ray. You would say Amanda Ray. How would people know my lineage and my life and who other people are related to me? Well, because their last name would be Ray. My daughter's last name is Ray, so people would know we are related. One clue to know we're related is last name is Ray. They say their last name first. So Kang No-yul. Do you remember Se-byung's last name that comes first? Kang Se-byung. Her name is Kang No-yul. And then her brother's name is Kang Dae-ho. So there's an idea kind of floating around that they may all be related because they all came from North Korea. And basically she becomes a guard, and there, if you remember in season 1, there's the whole organ harvesting happening where they are taking organs out of the players that get eliminated. And so they're trying to do that again. I was kind of annoyed that they brought that storyline back because it's kind of boring to me in the first one. But they bring it back, and it's a little interesting because they say that the organs are only good if the players are somewhat alive. They have to be alive. They can't be actually dead because then the organs shrivel and stuff like that. So they are shooting them enough to injure them, but not to kill them. And she doesn't like that. She was there to do a job to eliminate players, so she goes ahead and just starts eliminating them. And there's a new guy who wears a mask who's not the front man, but he has higher ranking than the other masks. So there's levels of the mask. There's the circles, the triangles, and the squares. And I believe squares have the highest ranking. They can talk, they can give orders. Triangles cannot talk, but they have the weapons. And circles they're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to take their masks off. I don't really know what they do, but they're like the nicest. And I've seen a lot of things saying people think they're the cutest because they just really don't talk and they're really nicer than the other guards for sure. But she is a triangle, so she is in red light, green light when they're eliminating the players and shooting them from the walls. She's the one doing that, and she's a really good shooter. She must have been a sniper in her past and when she was in North Korea. Some of the characters that they have in here, I'll say them, but again, I don't really vibe with really any of them. To me, the most annoying one is a lot of people's favorites I see this season is Thanos, player 230. There's only one part I thought he was funny, and he reminds me of someone I went to high school with, but he comes out from the room where they have to do the little merry-go-round thing, and then find rooms of 2 or 4 or 6 or however many they say. And he comes out and he's like, "What up, my people? Like, welcome back, my people." And he's like, "Skirt." That was the only thing he said that was funny. The rest of it, I didn't find him funny. I found him rude. I found him crude. He was threatening people. He was just being gross to women. And I guess he said he's claiming to be a rapper and he sucks at rapping. But there's something about the actor where he wasn't getting that much work. So the fact that he did get to star in Squid Game Season 2 is basically like his second chance at his career. And he brought back some little dance number in the merry-go-round thing. And I did like how he took things very lightly, like where everyone else is on the merry-go-round, like, he's like over there dancing and like, actually kind of taking it lightly. But he's very mean. He threatens, MG Coin, which is player 333. And MG Coin actually reminds me of my husband's brother because he very much is into Bitcoin and very much into like everyone should be, investing in Bitcoin. Well, MG Coin invested in Bitcoin, had a YouTube channel, and was telling everybody to do this. They did it, like Thanos. He invested in this YouTuber's idea of investing into Bitcoin and lost a lot of money. And so he basically, MG Coin had to go into hiding and he got threatened a lot. And now that he's in Squid Game with Thanos, who also lost a lot of money, he's mad and he wants his money. And some way, somehow he thinks MG Coin's going to give him his money. But he's like, "We're going to keep playing these games and you're going to owe me back the money you made me lose by your stupid Bitcoin thing." So I kind of agree on that in a way, but I'm not that well educated on Bitcoin, but any education I try to get from people who claim to know it, I don't understand it. And I don't want to end up like that, like investing in it and then being mad that I lost all this money for it. So, and then MG Coin, player 333, is also the father to the baby that Kim Jong-hee player 222 has inside her right now. So they do have a pregnant woman in there, and I'm very nervous for her. As you guys know, I just had a baby like about a year and some months ago. And anything mom related, baby related, pregnancy related, it makes me very nervous, very anxious for her. And yeah, she's probably under so much stress. And I heard something that she probably is going to give birth in season 3. And just giving birth in a scenario like Squid Game is just horrible. But I guess it's giving them hope. And then that takes me to player 1. Player 1's name is Young Il. I found it kind of obvious who he was. If you remember, player 1 in season 1 was called Oh Il Nam. That probably has nothing to do with it, the ill part. But it's interesting. Young Il, it's like Oh Il Nam, Young Il, player 1, player 1. Are we seeing a trend here? That may have absolutely nothing to do with it, but he looked so familiar to it, but I was trying to play it like I didn't know, and it was so obvious it was him. But he is Inho, aka the front man from season 1. So he put himself, just like how Oh Il Nam put himself in the episode, in the games, the front man puts himself in the games, kind of to throw off Jihan. And his whole thing is he wants to go against Jihan and taking down the games and stop him from doing that. Obviously, it's his game. He doesn't want it to stop. And I'm going to kind of off track by saying two things that annoyed me about this season. A, I did not like that they just dropped them all. I think what made season 1 so great was it gave you time to actually be with the characters and sit with them, marinate with them, because it's like episode 1 next week, episode 2, then you have a whole week to think about and process what you just saw, and whoa, what? And if you didn't catch something, go ahead, rewatch that episode before episode 3 next week. And it gave you something, some kind of drive. They dropped the whole season, and it felt more like a race to me this time, because people were already dropping, like I just said, big spoilers, because they're binge watching them all overnight. It took me a couple days to binge watch season 2. And I didn't feel like I got time to marinate with them. I didn't get time to go like, what was that about? Let me rewatch that. Because it's like, I have no time to rewatch that episode. I need to go see what the next episode is. I need to find out what this next spoiler is. I want to find this out before somebody drops it online. How did this character pass away? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it felt more like a race, and I didn't get time to actually give a damn about any of these people. Like, I feel bad that she's pregnant in such a stressful situation, but did I really know who Kim Jun-hee was? There's another character, player 95, who looked just like Kim Jun-hee, and they tried to make that seem like it was a moment when Soy Byung had to play the marble game with Han Mi-neo, the little girl who willingly just kind of was like, she kept saying, oh, after this we'll go get like mojitos, and it's like, oh, there is no after this. Oops. That was such a beautiful scene, and it was so sad. It was so sad that the actress who played Soy Byung cried. I don't think because of the scene, just she got so into it, but I cried the entire episode, even before we knew Oh Il Nam was running the games. When you think that this older man passes away, it was so sad. Two characters I have been actually kind of paying attention to in this one have been player 7, Bak Young-sik, and then player 149, Jang Jimajae. And the reason I care about these two is because they're mother and son. And they're sticking together. And in that episode, again, with the little merry-go-round, and he gets separated by his mom. And it was a question of, wow, where's your son? He left you? He didn't come find you? In my defense, when they're saying stuff like that, I'm like, those two guys literally dragged him away from his mom. He's like, that's my mother. That's my mother. And they just dragged his ass away from her. It's like, okay, he literally could not. I don't think he's strong enough to fight two men. So, yeah, he kind of got dragged away. But I've been kind of on the edge of my seat for the Kim Jong-hee, the pregnant lady, player 222, and then this mother-son duo. But I'm thinking in the back of my head, it's because, well, everyone died in the first one except for Jihan, so all these players are going to die. And then there's another player that at first, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really care for this player, Jo Hyun-ju, and I know that she's a huge fan favorite. She's player 120, and I really did not care about her at all. I understand what they're going for with her. I understand their messaging they're going for with her. It's nothing against who she is. I think the actor who played her did a phenomenal job. Go him. I think he is like the Korean version of when Jared Leto played Rayon in Dallas Buyers Club. Beautiful performance. Another issue I had with it is in the first episode, in the first season, at the games, after they played red light, green light, and they've showed them the money and all that stuff, and they're like, what is this? Where are we? What's going on? Song Woo says, how about that clause in the thing we signed where it says we can vote to get out of here? And they do one vote, and they get out, and they realize their lives are just as miserable as they were before. So they might as well go back and try to get more money. That was the whole point of that first vote in season 1. This one was so annoying to me because after every game they voted. And it's just like what is going on in reality right now. I do firmly believe that a vote should be unbiased. A vote should not be known, should not be talked about. When I was in history class in 16, not 2016, it was definitely before 2016. I'll be honest, whenever Obama went to office, when that election was happening, he said, I will not discuss who I voted for. I will not discuss my political views until you are out of this classroom. And if you would like to come back later as a student, a prior student of mine, and discuss it, sure. But while we are in class, while this is happening here and now, that is not up for discussion. That is not up for your opinion. And I love that teacher because I stand true to that. Who I vote for is no one's business. And I feel in this case, in Squid Game, it had to be their business because they had to know how many wanted to vote to leave and how many wanted to vote to stay. I get that. But I loathed the mom and son duo in those scenarios. Because Jihan, when he is like, guys, let's get out of here. Let's blah, 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 blah. And they're like, they put a gun to him. They didn't shoot it or anything, but they threatened him with a gun. And they say, from now on, we'll not have any more voter interference. But every fucking time the son went to go vote, that mom just had to say something. You better not. You know how you should vote. You better not disgrace your mom. It's my vote. Shut the fuck up. Like, honestly, I was actually kind of proud of him when he voted opposite of his mom. And yes, she was disappointed. But my main thing, you can't just freaking stop caring about someone just because they voted differently from you. Even if you find out who they voted for or how they voted or what they voted differently than you, they have difference of opinion. For me, voting for anything is difficult because, yes, certain people feel certain ways. Their way is the right way. The other way is the wrong way. Everybody feels that way, no matter what it is. And everyone can justify why they view it that way. But it's not right to just ostracize people for voting differently than you. Like, we have different opinions and views, and you might vote one way and you may regret the way you voted. That's your journey. But the voting really irked me, like, every freaking episode. And then it became like in season 1 when they stayed up and they had to stay up and make sure that no one really attacked them, and they had that attack scene. It wasn't about who wanted to stay, who wanted to go. Oh, you voted oppositely than what I wanted you to vote for. It had nothing to do with voting. It was all just they wanted the prize money, so as many bodies as they could kill overnight, that's more money they can get, which is what Squid Game was kind of supposed to be about. And I never really agreed, even with them allowing them to kill outside of the games, because that seems like it really goes against it. But it's very fickle in the rules. So that, I did not enjoy the voting process, especially every fucking episode. I'm just like, oh my fucking God, this is so annoying. So thankfully, in the last episode, when they're like, oh, voting will happen again tomorrow because we hit a tie, we'll re-vote tomorrow. I love how Jihan reminded us all, I'm not here to play to the end of the games. I'm here to shut down the games. So let's start that motion. And he tells them, instead of staying up all night and waiting who's going to kill how many blues are going to kill red, who voted red, and how many reds are going to kill who voted for blue. Actually, they don't kill who voted for blue. That's the point. They just were defending themselves because the blues wanted to stay and collect as much money, so as many eliminated people gets them more money. The reds wanted to go home. They didn't want to eliminate anymore. Said they weren't wanting to kill the blues. They're like, let's all just get out of here peacefully. But when you're getting attacked, you have to defend yourself. Sucks to suck. But instead of doing that, how about when the guards get in here, we do an uprising. And that scene was amazing. That part I really liked. When the guards do get in there, and they're counting the bodies and they're scanning them to see if they're dead or alive. And I forgot Jihan's plan, and I see his body on the ground. I see another one of the Reds' bodies on the ground. The young guy who said he is in the Marines, the young guy who said he is in the Marines. I saw him, and I was like, when did he die? Oh no, how did they die? What the heck? And they get up, and they start taking the weapons from the guards and ending the guards. I was like, that whole sequence, I was like, he's doing it. He's actually doing it. And another thing, one character I forgot, and I can't believe I forgot him. In this one, Jihan has another friend. It was someone that was in season 1 that he asked to borrow money from, and he's like, no, I can't give you any more money. And then from his point of view, Jihan just disappeared. And he's like, he's in the game. Jihan sees him at red light, green light, and he's like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, it's because I didn't loan you money? Is that why you stopped talking to me? He's like, no, dude, just stay close to me, listen to what I say, and we'll be okay. And he's another one who voted oppositely of Jihan. Jihan obviously wants to get out, so he voted red. And that guy saw he was getting some money, and so he voted the way he felt, and he voted blue. And it irked me to no end when after that voting session ended, he's like, sorry guys, I'm so sorry for how I vote. Don't. Like, if you're sorry to yourself, cool. But I didn't like how they have to like ostracize them and like question them and guilt them. Like, it just rubs me the wrong way when people do that. He ends up voting back to red again. But he was his friend, and he is literally his ride or die. And back to the front man. He, in the merry-go-round scene, in the very last one, he's like, I think they're going to make us just have 2 people in the room. We have to find a room with 2 people, but it doesn't matter. Everyone here is going to find a partner, but there's not enough doors. So even if you find someone, it's not guaranteed you're going to live. And the best friend of Jihan and Young Il find a room. They kick one of the guys out, and the other guy's in there. He's like, guys, I was in here first. Well, they can only have 2 people. If you break the rules and you have more than 2, they have cameras in the rooms, and everyone in that room will be eliminated. He knows that. He's the front man. He knows the rules. So he strangles the guy to death. So it would just be the best friend and Ilnam. Not Ilnam. Young Il. And the best friend's like, if we're voting red to not kill people and to not end lives, like, he's thinking, he didn't say this out loud, but he's kind of thinking like, you kind of killed that guy easily. Like, you had no questions or concerns killing that guy. And he wanted to tell Jihan, hey, this is what I just saw him do. But he ends up voting red to get out of the game. So he's like, because he is telling him, I feel weird about him. I feel like he may be up to no good because, but then he votes red. And so they're like, what were you saying? He's like, oh, nothing. It's fine. These games will drive you to, desperations. Let's just say desperations, which is not wrong, but that's not what happened. Basically, during the uprising, Young Il shows his true colors by Jihan and his best friend are attacking the guards from the front. And he's like, I think there's a way through the back. I could just go with these 2 other players and go get them, attack them from the back. So he finds the way to the back, and he's like, hey, 2 players, go ahead of me. I'll cover you. I knew right then and there he's going to shoot him in the back. And he does. He shoots them in the back. And then he uses the walkie-talkie to one of the guys he just shot in the back. He's like, sorry, Jihan, it's over. And he lets the guy struggle to breathe. Go like, So Jihan thinks that Young Il dies. Well, in that time, Young Il goes to the manager's room, puts on the front man's suit, and confronts Jihan at the stairs. And he's like, look what you've done. Look what you think. Look what your uprise has done. Now you have to pay the consequences. And he turns his gun to Jihan's best friend and eliminates him. And that was really sad. That was the only time in the whole thing I did feel really sad, and I had a lump in my throat. I didn't ever actually cry, but I was like, oh, because he was like so innocent, and he was a good fighter, and he was in the Marines. And talking about the Marines, the little guy, but the younger guy who was saying he is part of the Marines, I don't know what his deal was, if he actually wasn't in the Marines and he was just acting that way to get friends, or if he was in the Marines but he didn't make it far, or he'd never had to see bloodshed. But when they sent him back to go get the ammo, to reload on the ammo, I don't know what happened. He collects the ammo, and he's very shaky the whole time. He's like, He collects the ammo, and he goes to go back. And it's a scene where he has all this ammo, and he looks up, and he's like, and I'm like, there's a guard in front of him. They're gonna shoot him. Nope. It just cuts the scene, and it cuts the scene to player 120, who, oh my gosh, amazing. So it gets discovered that 120 used to be, I think, in the military, an ex something, military term. I'm sorry, I don't remember all of it. But she ends up, I'm like, damn, I would be your best friend now. Like, I may have not really cared for you, and you may have been, in my opinion, a little boring from the get-go, but she was like the only one taking, not the only one, she was the main one taking out guards and just going ham on the guards. And I'm like, I would be standing by your side. I'd be standing behind you. I'd be standing next to you. I would be not even shooting. I would just be giving you my magazines, and you could just go crazy, girl, because you know what you're doing. The front man shoots Jihan's best friend, and it ends subpar and on a cliffhanger. He is screaming, Jihan screaming, because it feels very like they've lost. The player 120 goes back to get the ammo and sees the young Marine guy like cowered in a corner. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he had PTSD and all this was reminding him of his day in the Marines, if he is pretending to be in the Marines and this is too real for him, or he just never actually saw anything like this during his time in the Marines. But he is cowering. But then 120 collects all the ammo, and guards start walking in, like a lot of them, and she starts getting ready to go after them. But then the mom's like, no, you don't want to go out like this. Like, I don't want to, but I will. Like, what? I don't know. That looked bleak, because it looked like there's a lot more guards than there was one person with a gun. Guard 11 ended up recognizing player 246, Byok Jeong-suk. Sorry if I said it wrong. She recognized him as the dad to the little girl that would see her at the parades as the bunny. And so at the very end, it shows a triangle masked guard shoot him. But the theory is that was her, and she most likely did not shoot him to kill him, just to injure him, because she knows he has a sick daughter at home. And with her being a mom looking for her daughter, that pulls at the strings, and she doesn't, even though she tried to say goodbye to her past self, I don't think she has it in her to actually end his life like that. But all was fine and dandy. It was a subpar ending. And then they show a post-credit scene. And the post-credit scene, I don't know what reaction. I guess everyone's like fucking excited for it. To me, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, the ending is them literally still in the uprising, where it looks so bleak. The front man has a gun to Jihan. All the guards have guns to the people who are unarmed, except for one person. And then it cuts that, and then goes to a post-credit scene of the statue of that big giant girl, now with the statue of a big giant boy. And I guess that's a Japanese or a Korean story for little kids. But I don't know if people's theory is that's like, there's two theories about Jihan. Either he's going to die, because him and the frontman are like yin and yang, so one cannot live while the other survives, type of Harry Potter, Voldemort bullshit that we hear in every storyline. So either he's going to pass, or he's going to become the front man. That I don't understand. And I don't know if, like, the little boy, someone was saying that they think that that's him, that he becomes the front man and he put that little boy up there. But a theory I like better is that may be actually a flashback, because I believe his player either 100 or 101 in season 2, he has salt and pepper hair. He's an older man. But I'll show the picture here, but when you look at that player who is 100 or 101, they were young, and they had dark black hair as a young person. So someone's theory there is it's going to be telling the front man's past, when he played the games back in 2015 and won them, and what happened. Because the reason he kind of relates to player 222, the pregnant lady, is because his wife in his past life when he was in Ho, the cop, just like his brother was the cop, his wife passed away from a fatal pregnancy. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go, but they do say that season 3 is coming out in just a couple months because they already shot season 3 right after season 2. So I'm going to try to hold out on any disappointment, too much disappointment, and just say it's going to be an extended season 2. And I don't know what I hope for Jihan. I don't hope him to die, obviously, but I don't know. It's just very different. It wasn't as emotional. And it wasn't, I knew the plot twist. I knew the front man was the front man when I saw him. And it was kind of funny, actually, because it seemed like he's like, what do you think the next game is going to be? It's like, sir, you should know. Which they did throw it off by putting different games when he had the idea is going to be the honeycomb as the second game. And he had that nightmare that's like, oh, pick the triangle. So they all picked the triangle, and it's this really in-depth triangle. And they're like, you, Jihan. And he wakes up and it's a completely different game. I like how they did do different games and it wasn't beat by beat. My sister actually said something in episode 1 when they were looking for the recruiter. She's like, who's to say he'd still be playing the same game with the blue and red card? Like, who's to say he'd still be playing that? So I do like how they introduced new games, but I don't know. The best part I liked was the uprising. I forgot that he was there to do the uprising. I thought he was just going to play all the games to the end. So that part was really cool. But other than that, it did not have the magic of season 1. But we'll see what season 3 holds in store. And I hope it tells more about the front man. Right now, I guess I'm more interested in him and understanding what his goal and motivation is more than why Jihan would potentially become the front man. That to me makes no sense, but I don't know. If you like this review of Squid Game as a whole, let me know. Please comment down what you liked about Squid Game. Did you like season 1 better? Did you like season 2 better? What do you think is going to happen? Let's have a conversation. And please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys later.